and welcome to the first in a new series of in-depth videos on how I turn various pieces. My thought process down to selecting the wood and the techniques that I use as I'm progressing turning the piece. Now, because I'm going to be giving a commentary as I'm turning and informing you of what I'm thinking of at a particular stage, these videos are obviously going to be quite long. So what I intend to do is to make maybe 3 or 4 videos per piece, and then you will be able to see each stage without having to sit there for maybe an hour and a half. And then at the end of the series, when I've actually done that particular piece, I'll lump them all together in one long video, so you have a choice of how you want to watch it. And the whole idea of these videos is to hopefully give some insight to the newer turner as well to experienced turners, some different methods maybe, and hopefully you'll find it enjoyable and informative. Well, without further ado, let's get started turning a goblet. The first thing we have to do is to decide what wood we're going to use. Now, the good thing with goblets is that any branch wood or fairly narrow limb will do for a goblet. I've got here a selection. We've got some oak, we've got some spalted beech, some cherry, even a thin piece like this, which is a piece of pink ivory. You can make a small goblet from that. We've got some yew and even some silver birch. Now, as long as they're around the 3.5 inches for a standard size goblet, then it's going to be about 6 inches, maybe 7 inches long. All these will do fine, and I think what we're going to do is to use the cherry for no particular reason other than that's what I want to do for this particular piece. Now, this cherry is about 3.5 inches across the widest point, but it is an odd shape here, so obviously I'm only going to get that sort of a diameter on both sides. The pith is offset, which is good, and there, as I say, is a slight bow in it here, so that is going to be the maximum diameter that we're going to be able to get. Okay, so I've looked at it before I take the bark off, and I'll have a look then at the figure and decide how I'm going to orientate it. In other words, what's going to be the bowl and what's going to be the base. Now, quite often I will just eyeball where I want to place it between centres, but you could use a centre finder. That's my eyeballed mark there, and just take 3 references from different parts, and you see it meets sort of there, but I'm quite happy. I'll go here, so that'll be there. And then eyeball this bit here and make a mark there. And this is just to start the process, set it up, balance it, and then see how we go. I'm using a spring centre here from Simon Hope. That's purely because I like to use those, and just bring up the tailstock and just let it go round and see. And you're looking here as well. Let's go to this camera. As it's turning round, you can sort of see what diameter you're going to get there, and the same at this side. You can see approximately how it's looking, how central it is. Now, we've got this bow to contend with, so the diameter is going to be reduced, so we're looking at sort of around that way. That could actually go down ever so slightly that way, go up there. Yeah. I think we're happy with that. It's not an exacting science. Okay, so we've got it mounted between centres. What I like to do first is to rough it down to a cylinder, then we can look at the figure and see which way we're going to orientate it. At this juncture, it's important to stress, especially for the newer turner, when turning on the lathe, always wear face protection at a bare minimum. I normally use my Evolution respirator when I'm turning. That protects me as well as my lungs as well. when you're making a video, it obviously isn't practical, so I either wear my UVEX or safety glasses. So the choice is yours, but make sure you have some form of safety protection. So with the piece between centres, we want to have the tool rest so that you're just cutting on or just above centre, and I'll be using 1 1/4 inch spindle roughing gouge. Turn the lathe on, keep the revs to nothing as you start, and then slowly build up until you start to get vibration, because the quickest RPM you can use, the better the turning. Just got a little bit of vibration there. We're doing just under 1000 RPM. So again, all I'm going to do is to bring this to round. Notice I'm moving my body as one. I'm locking the handle into my thigh and just moving along the piece with my body, as opposed to just using my arms. And that way you get more control. I can start to put the speed up a little bit now. And now we're up to 1200 RPM, and as you can hear, it's a much more pleasant experience, and it's cutting nicely too. And don't forget, you're not in a rush. Stop the lathe, bring the tool rest a little closer to the work. You can see the nice figure that's appearing now. I want to get rid of that bit of bark, getting to almost round. And turn it up a little bit more now, sort of 1400 RPM. Bearing in mind the majority of the wood, almost 2/3 of it, is going to be the stem. Just nice and slowly across the piece. Stop and have a look. Almost there. Get rid of this little bit of bark here, because the bowl of the goblet, we've got to square this off and square this off here, so the bowl of the goblet's going to be to about there, then you've got the stem, and then you've got the base. So you can already have some idea in your mind of how it's going to go. Just nice and gently let the wood come down onto the edge. No race necessary. Doesn't have to be perfectly cylindrical because we're going to be shaping it. Now just one more pass. And that should give us a cylinder for the bowl area. That's the top. I'm not worried about the middle because that's all going to come away for the stem and the base. Okay, this is okay because I've got to be shaping this. So my next process, and as I will keep saying on many occasions during this video, this is the way I do it. It's not necessarily, there is no definitive way really, in my opinion. So what I'm going to take now is a parting tool and just square up the end. So just change camera here, and then you can see what I'm doing. I'm just squaring at the end here, then I'll be able to decide how I'm going to actually orientate it for the turning. And we'll do the same for the other side. And then that will then give us an idea of the dimensions. Okay, that's good. So now look at the piece and decide what's going to be the top and what's going to be the bottom. Bearing in mind, as I say, this will be turned away, so I'm looking at it here, and to be honest with you, I don't think it makes an awful lot of difference. There's a bit more character at this end maybe. Yeah, so we'll have this as the bowl, and then this is the base. So I'm going to want to put a tenon on the base. Now I'm using the Axminster sea jaws. They have a dovetail on the outside, but the inside of the jaw is straight with a lip at the end here. Now the diameter for my particular chuck is 56mm for a tenon, so I like to do about 57, 58 to allow for a little bit of movement. Your chuck will be different, but it is important to get the size of your tenon correct, or as near as you can, because then you get a nice even grip around the tenon. And the depth of the tenon needs to be just shy of the back of the jaws here. So we'll start. And I know from experience it's approximately that deep. And get your calipers and reduce. And just measure. And then you can carry on just until the calipers slip over the tenon. That's it. And just tidy up the corner, the face there, so the shoulder's nice and square. And as far as depth of the tenon is concerned, we're looking just about right. So it's just going to be shy of there. So the next operation is to, what I tend to do, I'll just take that to the bandsaw and just take off that nub there. I won't show that on the camera, and I'll come back when that's done. So as you can see now, it's nice and clean there, so it's not going to foul the back of the jaws, the middle part. So what I need to do now is to just take out the live center, keep the center here just for squaring it up. Bring it up and then just bring it forward, and there we go. A little bit of pressure and tighten up. Now the gap is a little bit big there, the tenon's a little bit wide, but I'm not worried about that on this sort of small piece. I'm confident that it'll have good holding power, which is what we want. And just spin him to make sure it's spinning nice and true, which it is. Now at this stage I'm going to start to shape the bowl. Now as I said to you earlier on, I like to work in thirds. So a third of the bowl, and then the other 2/3 will be the stem and the base. So I'm thinking approximately there for the bowl. So I'll just start, I'm using a 1/2 inch spindle gouge here. Let's turn the speed up a bit. Got the speed up to sort of 2000 RPM. This is only rough, and I like to have the bowl coming round like so, because that's just the way I like it. Maybe if I change the camera here it would be better. So if we go to that one there, yeah, that shows me on the side as well, and the overhead. Good. Okay, so just literally start to get a rough shape of what you're looking at. We don't want to go too narrow here, because although this is not going to be an extremely long goblet, we want to keep as much meat for stability for when we're hollowing. And that's starting to get the shape I'm looking for. Take a little bit away from here, just to give me a bit more idea. Yeah, that's okay. And at this stage I'm not looking for finish or anything, I'm just looking to play around to get the shape I'm looking at. Yeah, quite like that, and I can alter this as I want later on. So that's going to be the basic, bearing in mind of course it's going to come down to about here by the time I've brought it down to sort of stem diameter. So that's going to be, just clean that up a bit. Not necessary, but I like things to be as clean as possible. Okay, so now we're going to address the hollowing out. So now I'm going to get rid of this little nub here, again using the 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Just nice, gentle cuts. Like with any cut, just let the wood come onto the edge. And we'll do. Now at this stage, there are several ways. I like to put a depth hole in to give me something to work from. And we look here, there's a little bit of a knot there, but that's going to come away, so that all looks pretty good. So there's two ways of doing it. One of the easiest ways is to just get a drill, just make a little indent here, just a little cone for the drill to register against, and then you want it smack on center. You can use the rest if you wish. Whoop, see, now I got a push in. Pull out. And let's go in again. There, right, we go a little bit more. Make sure it's all perpendicular. Just press in nice and gently. A bit more. And that should do. Now you noticed I got a little bit of a catch at the beginning. Don't let those sort of things worry you. Don't hold anything too hard and too heavy, that way the catch is minimized. I'm not going to edit that out obviously. Now it's a little bit punky here actually. So we've got several ways of hollowing. You can hollow using your spindle gouge, and that is back hollowing, and what you're using there is just the left hand side of the wing, and just swing. Let me pull out a bit so you can see a bit more of what's going on. bit too far. There you go. Okay, so literally all you're doing is using the left, just to the left of the nose, and start to hollow out. Again, letting the wood come on to the piece. Stop and have a look. It's very effective where you can use the a mini hollower like I've got from Simon Hope, but not everybody's got those, so I'm just using tools that most of you will have. And if you haven't got the 1/2" spindle gouge, you can use a 3/8 spindle gouge. You just have to go a little bit virtually there now. Okay, now I need to sharpen, so what I'll do is quickly sharpen the edge of this and I'll come back to you. So I've sharpened, which just took a couple of seconds. When you get to a situation where you feel you're going to put more pressure on, it needs sharpening. Obviously I'm doing a video, so I'm tending to forget those things. Now already you can see it's cutting a lot easier. Just doing a bit of refining now. Trying to get the contour inside to match the contour of the outside. Now we're not worried at the moment of the thickness. I'm not thinking about that at the moment. And just going a little bit more. Okay, now what I tend to do to finish off the inside a little bit smoother is use a scraper, a negative rake scraper. Now I've got several which I've made up myself, and the one that I like to use is one that I've made. It's almost like a mini bowl scraper, if you like, and that just allows me, just put the rest up a little bit. That allows me to get a nice smooth internal. So it's got the inside nice, and then I'll just use a round nose scraper just to do the bottom as I want it. Just there. Just to bring it down. It's difficult to show you on the camera, obviously, and don't do as I do, put your fingers in. Just get rid of that little nub at the bottom. That's it. So that's it hollowed out basically. I do a little bit of refining, just a little bit thick there. And people ask me why I use negative rake scrapers. Well, I think they are more forgiving and they do leave a nice finish. A scraper does just as well, but you have to have the handle raised to avoid getting a catch. And then it's really a case of how far you want to go, and I do tend to get a little bit over the top with things because I like them to be as perfect as I possibly can. And I could actually, from this angle, I could run that up the side as well. Just to make that curve inside as I want it. That's it. That's lovely. I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do here is just very slightly just come up the side here. There's a little bit of a ridge there, so I'm starting well over. Just to blend that in. Just a tiny bit more. Yep, that's good. And now I can work on the outside to bring the width of the walls down to as I want it. So we're already up to around the 20 odd minute mark, I should think, and we've got to selecting the wood, roughing it down, making the bowl shape roughly and hollowing out the inside. I'm going to leave it there for this video, and on the next video we'll sand up the inside, finish the inside, and then carry on the final shape of the bowl and then working down to the stem, and we'll see how long that takes to get to there. Well, I hope you found it interesting up to now. It's a new format for me, almost like doing a live. Okay, well thanks very much indeed for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and I'll see you very soon, hopefully next week, with the next part. Cheers now.